everyone, welcome to Heavy Tones, the channel all about going low and heavy with guitars. And in this video, let's take a look at how to sound like Black Sabbath. Now, I was thinking about the band that I probably first heard that was using heavy low tunings, and it's got to be Black Sabbath. I mean, I grew up listening to Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden, and I sort of only realized a bit later that they were tuning all the way down to C standard, and this was back in like the 70s, so almost like 50 years ago. There's this band tuning super low. So in this video, let's take a look at how they tune low and how they get the tone with their guitars. I'm going to explore some amp simulation and effects software that you can use in your computer to get a tone similar to that. But first, let's give a playthrough of a song and then I'll talk more about the setup. So for the song, I'm going to be doing a playthrough on Children of the Grave. So this is a really chunky riff that's from the Master of Reality album. It's tuned to C standard, and I'm going to be using my Squier Telecaster Deluxe because I don't have an SG like Tony Iommi, but he uses an SG with some P90s. On this guitar, I've got some humbuckers, but I can coil split it to give it a single coil sound with that heavy tone. So let's do the playthrough, and then after that, we'll get into the setup and the tone. Catch you after this. Great, so that was the song and the tone that I dialed up to get as close as possible to their sound. Now, let's take a look in the software how you can achieve the similar type of tone. But before getting into that, please, if you like what you're seeing on this channel, subscribe to it if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell to be notified of future videos. And also, leave some comments in the comment section below on what you thought of the video and what else you'd like to see in this channel. Also, I'd just like to punt two other things. If you want to support this channel and help keep video and content coming out, you can support me in two ways. You can get merch. I'll leave a link to the description for the merch site for these shirts. And also, I've been putting up music from my previous videos up on streaming services. And I'll leave a link to that Discord hyperfollow link as well. So let's go over some of the important things that Tony Iommi used in his setup, and then we'll take a look at how to replicate that in the software. Obviously, he had his Gibson SG loaded with P90s, and I found that he must have been using his neck pickup to get the tone a lot for a lot of the songs on their records. Then he was using a Laney GH100L amp. Now, this was really important to his tone. I've got an emulation of that in the software to get really close to that sound. And in front of the amp, he was using a Dallas Rangemasters TrebleBooster Pedal. Now, you'll see how this actually really creates quite a bit of the tone for the sound. And also, what I find also helps just before the treble booster and the amp is some sort of fuzz pedal. Now let's take a look at how to emulate this using some amp emulation and effects. Okay, so now let's take a look at how I got that guitar tone in my software. I'm using Studio One as my DAW. I'm going to first play through the mix of the song, then I'm going to isolate the guitars, and then I'm going to talk about the plugins and effects used. So here's the song. And then here's just the guitars. Okay, so going back to in the beginning where I mentioned the key components needed for Tony Iommi's guitar sound. Obviously, he's using an SG with some P90s. I used a Squier Telecaster with a humbucker that has got a coil split, so I could get that single coil tone, and I used the neck pickup. Then the next key factor is his amp that he uses, which is a Laney GH100L. Now, I did some searching around to try to find some software package or amp emulation that emulates that amp. And what I found was that Overloud THU had a rig player preset pack that included that amp. So I'm going to open up THU. First, let me just take this guitar track, solo it. I'm going to turn off the EQ and the room reverb, and then just open up THU. So if I just expand this, I'm going to turn off these effects here and start off with the amp. I just want to make sure I'm playing through that area. And here what we've got is an emulation of the Laney GH100L. Now, this is quite a dark and bass heavy sounding amp head just by itself. So this is the amp head going into its matched 4x12. Then what Tony Iommi used was a Dallas Rangemasters TrebleBooster Pedal. Now there is a PC emulation of this effect, but unfortunately I couldn't use it because I'm on Mac, so I had to try to find some substitutes. And what I used was this V TrebleBooster, which is an emulation, if you can just see here, of a Vox TrebleBooster pedal. Now take a listen when I switch on this TrebleBooster, how it changes that sound. So it sort of gets rid of that sort of bass heavy sound and boosts the treble, giving more clarity in the high end. So it's sounding quite close there. But I want a bit more saturation. So what I did was get an emulation of a fuzz pedal, being the big muff. This is called the fat muff in THU. And this is just giving some extra fuzziness and saturation to the sound. So check this out. And it's a bit noisy because it's single coil and there's a bit of heavy saturation going on. So I've just chucked a noise gate in front of everything. So it's really sounding pretty close. So I really wanted to find an amp that matched his amp. So I was very glad to find this rig player preset that was for THU. Now, obviously, if you don't have THU and you want to sort of get a amp sound that's close to that, what you could probably look at is some British sounding amps like an Orange amp emulation and use that as your amp head. And then find some form of treble booster pedal that you can use in front. And then in between the treble booster and the amp head, you can use a fuzz pedal emulation. Those three key things are going to really get that sound for you. Then just some extra processing that I did after that. On the guitars, I've just added some EQ where I've taken off a bit of the lows. There's a slight bump up over here at the sort of 280 Hertz region. I've cut a bit of the mid-range at around 1.4 kilohertz and then just shelved off the high end. And just overall, to make everything sound a bit more vintage and old school, I've just used some console emulation. So on this guitar bus over here, I've added the Waves SSL console, EQ, and compressor channel strip, just with some slight tweak settings. I actually used the CLA guitar preset, which is the Chris Lord Ulgry preset within this plugin, and slightly tweaked things. The key thing was I did a bit of a boost at 100 Hertz. Then there's a cut at 1.5 Hertz in the low mid range. The high frequency mid range I've kept just even, haven't really done anything over there, but I have done a boost at 1.5 kilohertz and then did a bit of a filter sweep where I've cut out the filters below 70 hertz and sort of shelved some things off at 5 kilohertz. And after that, I've just added some SPL twin tube to add some tape saturation, making it sound more analog as if it was being recorded onto tape. So I'm just going to pull those guitars back. Where was that? That was panned here. So you can hear both guitars. And then with the rest of the mix. So there you go. Those three key things is a Laney GH100L amp, a TrebleBooster pedal in front of it, and then a fuzz pedal in between that. Great stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and that gives you an idea on how to get a similar tone if you're going for that tone. Obviously, Black Sabbath were the forefathers of metal, and they also pioneered a lot of other types of subgenres. For example, Doom. So if you're going for that Doom tone and that Doom sound, following some of these steps will really get you there. And like I said in the beginning, if you want to support me and this channel, please subscribe and click on that notification bell. Plus, leave some comments below on what you thought of this video and what else you'd like to see. I'll catch you in the next video.